This video is supported by TBC Live. TBC Live is an app where you can tip NRL games as well as predict NRL games as they're happening live. You can chat with other people and content creators of rugby league. There is weekly IQ and ranked leaderboards as well as tipping competition. TBC Live has it all. Download TBC Live today. It is time to make some pure content, and this video I'm going to be predicting the NRL ladder heading into round 2. So after one round of football, where all 17 teams will be on the NRL ladder at the end of round 1. In 17th spot at the end of round 1, heading for the wooden spoon, I've got the Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins have been pretty good in round 1 in recent years since their inaugural and better NRL season. Obviously missing out on finals last year, this team will be out with a point to prove and without their star coach Wayne Bennett, but they will take on South Sydney in round 1, which is going to be a very tough opponent. And I mean, someone has to be there, right? I'm predicting the Dolphins to be in 17th at the end of round 1. In 16th spot, I've got the North Queensland Cowboys. A lot of losses to their side this year. They lose Chad Townsend, they lose Valentine home. I've got question marks all over them. I think they can compete with teams, but I think it's going to be tough in round 1. They play the Manly Sea Eagles at Brookvale. They're very hard to beat at their home, and I think the Cowboys will be in the bottom 4 to start the year. 15th, I've got the Newcastle Knights. Now, the Knights will play a away game against the West Tigers, New Look West Tigers of Taruva, Jerome Luai, Royce Hunt, Jack Bird. Really interesting team with question marks. We've seen them get players over the last couple of years, but I feel like the Tigers can probably win that round 1 game against the Knights. I've got a few concerns about the Knights this season. I think they'll be better in their home games rather than away games with the crowd behind them. This is one of those games I just don't expect the Knights to do too well. I think they start the season in 15th. In 14th spot, I've got the Cronulla Sharks because I think that the Penrith Panthers, the 4-time champions, will look to for a point to prove and sort of a magic show in Vegas. The Sharks are lucky enough to head over there for Vegas in round 1, but I think, unfortunately, the Penrith Panthers are going to expose them in that game a little bit. The Sharks will have a great season nonetheless, but they will start the year in 14th. In 13th spot, I've got my team, the Parramatta Eels. I think it's going to be a great game against Melbourne in round 1. Melbourne have an amazing round 1 record victory. We've got some new additions to the squad this year. I just don't know if it's enough to beat the Storm and end this hoodoo of the Storm and their round 1 clash. Love Jason Ross up against Craig Bellamy, and I do expect a much better year from the boys than 15th, but I think we'll be down the bottom end of the ladder to start the year. In 12th, I've got the Sydney Roosters. Now, they lose a lot of players this year, but they still will win games, I'm telling you now. But the first round, they play the Brisbane Broncos. It's going to be a very tough opponent. The Broncos are quite healthy, albeit Ezra Mam suspended. But they bring Ben Hunt into their side, strong forward pack. They should be able to get over the top of the Roosters in round 1, and they should do it by a decent margin, and that will leave the Roosters down in the bottom 8. Now, this one's interesting. In 11th place, I've got the St. George Illawarra Dragons. And I'll tell you what, a lot of these games may change when I see the team list for round 1. These aren't necessarily my round 1 tips, but I think that the Bulldogs right now would probably just beat the Dragons. I give the Dragons a bit of a sniff this year to surprise people once again, like last year. They could absolutely beat the Bulldogs in round 1. But I'm going to go the other way and say the Bulldogs win that one and the Dragons sit in 11th to start the year. 10th spot, I've got the Canberra Raiders. I think their matchup in Vegas against the Warriors should be fairly close, but they've already shown me that they can't stick to a full 80 minutes. I'm looking forward to watching them this week again in the trial to see more of them because they're young players and even their experienced ones now, which is such a young side, played pretty well, but unfortunately the Sharks got the better of them, and that's something the Raiders have done in recent years. So I'm going to say they lose a close one to the Warriors and still sit in a good position for round 1 in 10th. Ninth spot is the Gold Coast Titans, purely because they don't play in round 1. 8th, I've got the New Zealand Warriors because I think they can just scrape a win against the Raiders in round 1. It's going to be close, and that's why they're at the bottom of the top 8. In 7th, I've got the Bulldogs. They face the Dragons in round 1, which should be a close encounter. I think the Bulldogs can probably win it. I think opposition around them have gotten better. They have to get a win in round 1 to start a successful season once again. 6th, I've got the Broncos. I think they should be able to snatch a round 1 win against the Sydney Roosters, who might take a little while to click, starting their year quite well. I think they're in for a better season than 2024, and I've got them in 6 at the end of round 1. 5th, I've got the Melbourne Storm. I think after losing the NRL Grand Final, they're going to come out with some intent. Unfortunately, they play my Parramatta Eels. It should be a close-ish game. The Storm will probably win and be in 5th spot at the end of round 1. 4th is crazy. I've actually got the West Tigers. I don't think they're going to be top 4 this year, but at the end of round 1, I think they can get a nice win against the Knights, start their season with their new players and get off to a flyer. 3rd is the Penrith Panthers. I think they are going to win in Vegas in round 1. They're pretty much full strength by the looks of it, and they should dominate the league once again this year, but I don't think they'll finish at the top position of the ladder in round 1. 2nd is the Rabbitohs. Now, at the time of filming this, halfway through, I've just found out about Latrell Mitchell, Cameron Murray, big news there, but they play the Dolphins. They've still got a good forward pack. Wayne Pennant will get his boys up for round 1, and they'll be sitting pretty at 2nd place. Which means that the Birds, the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles, will be sitting at the top of the NRL ladder in round 1 in 2024. They take on the Cowboys. I think they can get a nice victory and get their season off to an absolute flyer to start the year. There you have it. There is my predicted NRL ladder at the end of round 1. Please let me know your ladder in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Plenty of content to come out. Make sure you subscribe if you're new around here. At 5,000 subscribers, I will be giving away an NRL membership. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.